my boundaries, like my own rules for work and home, they change frequently. Like sometimes on the weekly, sometimes on the monthly, sometimes on the quarterly, but I'm always establishing how are things going and what needs to change. So view like your boundaries don't have to be so rigid and strict. The most important thing is the boundaries need to work for you so that you can maintain a quality of life, excitement, enthusiasm, relationships, all the things that you want, all the things you want to make sure that you're doing it in a way that works for you. Well, hey friends, welcome back to another episode of the Heather Sager Show. Today we're talking about boundaries. Now, if you've ever found yourself in a situation where you are saying yes, but dying on the inside because you're saying yes to answering emails when you said you weren't going to, or you said yes to a client request even though you don't want to do it, but you don't want to piss them off, or you just want to do your best. You want people to think of you as a high quality producer. Boundaries really creep up on us. And oftentimes as high achievers, and people pleasers, we want to serve our audience. We want to serve others, but there comes a point where we also have to be mindful of ourselves. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about boundaries. Yes, a little bit about what they are and why we need to set them. But really, the conversation I want to have today is how you communicate your boundaries in an effective way. How do you allow boundaries to help create trust between you and your clients, between you and your community, and not annoyance or disdain? Because I don't know about you, but I've had situations in the past where when somebody has very much communicated their boundaries at me, it's kind of a turnoff. So, how do you do it in a way that honors your audience and actually explains the benefit to them while maintaining what's true to you so that you can focus on the things in your life that actually matter? You can have time for relationships, you can have time for your family, and you're not pulling your hair out at 11:30 trying to finish up on client work. That's what we're diving into today. All right, so let's talk about what are boundaries. Because I have to be honest with you, this was not a conversation that we ever had in the corporate world. Boundaries. If you were putting up boundaries and telling people around you that you weren't replying to emails on weekends or you weren't replying at night, people look at you like you're crazy because you said it out loud. And even though so people would say, oh, it's like good, we don't want you to work nights and weekends, there's a silent expectation. And that carries over the entrepreneurial world. So if you have a background in corporate, you probably carry that hustle bustle from corporate with you quite a bit. And here's the thing, it's not that we're all trying to be workaholics, it's just we strive to do good work. And it's a blend of having high ambition and knowing that with sheer like do more, we can get more done. There's that piece, but there's also this piece of we want other people to like our work. We want people to be excited about our work and we want to say yes. So it's really hard. So let's talk about what are boundaries. Now, there's some definition of boundaries. I looked a couple up, but here's what I think about. Boundaries for me are the perimeter between my work life and my home life. And I'll tell you, as an entrepreneur, it's very blurry because here I sit in the guest bedroom of my house, which is now an office. And right outside that door, my kindergartner is watching, I don't know what, PJ Masks. I should probably nobody's watching, but it's all approved. Don't worry. We got the code set up. But the work life thing is pretty blurry working from home. And especially this last year with schedules changing like crazy and Zoom kindergarten and everybody's home, it's like, where are the boundaries? It can feel really blurry. So for me, boundaries are the determined perimeter between work and home. And I don't view this as like a fortress. I am not one of those people that's like, business, keep business, business, and personal, personal. I started a business because I want to have a lifestyle business, which I hate that term, but you know what I'm saying, right? I want to be able to work when I want to work, be able to create a business and a life that I love. And it sounds so cheesy because it's like everybody and their mom's tagline, but it's truly what I'm going after here. So my goal isn't to have them be separate. I'm not a like separate foods on the plate kind of person. I'm like mash it all together and make it a bowl and it's delicious. Weird tangent. Yep. There you go. Welcome to the Heather Sager Show. So for me, it's like the goal isn't to keep them super strict. However, I do have to define tension points in my business and personal life where they seep too much, like seep over too much. That's where I need to put up a boundary or a wall. So that's my definition of boundaries. I set specific areas of where I need to set boundaries, most likely stemming from pain points or disasters that have happened. Then I set boundaries. I'd love to be a little bit more proactive with it, but that's where I'm at on it. Reading online, here's a couple of the sayings or the couple of the definitions that I read. By setting your own boundaries, you're telling others how you want and expect to be treated. I thought that was really clear. By setting boundaries, you are telling others how you want and expect to be treated. I think that's really powerful. That's a conversation I'm having a lot right now with having young kids. I want to teach my son that he's got to be clear with other people around how he wants to be treated. They're having like conversations right now around stranger danger and not allowing people to touch your bodies. This went real south real quick, but like boundaries, like it's not just about work and home. There's like physical boundaries, there's emotional boundaries, there's mental boundaries, all those things. We're not talking about all those things today. Do some research, get your boundaries in your life. Today, we're talking about the boundaries between life and work and where the two things kind of merge and crash and collide in our businesses. Another thing that I read was workplace boundaries help you achieve and safeguard that work-life balance and your sanity. I thought that was an interesting, beautiful thing. What we want to figure out here is the question is, do you need boundaries? And the answer is yes. In the last episode, my interview with Paige Schulte on Realtors, she's a realtor, one of my clients. I don't know why I said that so weird, but Paige is awesome. We had a very candid conversation around how speaking shows up both in client work and in so many different aspects of our business. But we talked a little bit about boundaries, and I went off on a tangent around how I'm really annoyed by boundaries. And this is the follow-up to that conversation because I felt like I needed to explain myself and also share a little bit and give you some insights around this. And my frustration with boundaries is there seems to be a lot of communication in this. I'm going to get in trouble for this, but this means I need to say it. In this like lifestyle business, online entrepreneur space. Holy crap, I'm going to tip over my water bottle because I just did some crazy hand gestures. If you're watching the video, that was real, like a real gem. But there's this ongoing like vibe to like live on the beach and work less and brag about it all the time. And how I see that often comes out is people then go and tell their clients all the times they don't work. Hey, so I'm super excited to get started on this project, but just to be clear, I don't work on Mondays, and Tuesdays through Fridays, I only work until 2 p.m., but I only start at 11 a.m. And then I go to the beach on Fridays. And so I answer emails between 10 and 11 o'clock on Fridays. So excited about this. I don't know why I did that voice. And obviously that's a very crazy extreme and nobody has that example, but that's what it sounds like when people start projects and they tell people all their no's. Imagine this. Have you ever done one of those like diets that give you a list of all the things you can't eat? No sugar, no dairy, no gluten, no fun, no nothing, like whatever. It's all the no's. And even if you didn't eat those things before, all of a sudden you become obsessed with like, but I want it, but I want the donut. I want the cake. I want the cheese fries. Like I want all the things you just told me I couldn't have. It's not a great way to set anyone up for success. We don't want to focus on a no list. What I'm going to talk to you today is about how do you focus on a yes list so that other people not only respect your boundaries, but they appreciate them. Yes, it's possible. So it starts with, let's talk about, okay, some examples of boundaries. I don't work on weekends, or, I don't communicate via email with clients. I communicate on Slack or on Voxer. A boundary would be you don't check Facebook after 8 p.m. A new boundary to set for myself, I don't use Facebook on my cell phone. It's on my desktop only. You got to think about what are some boundaries and what I would look to for you. I'm not going to teach you how to set boundaries today. You need to set your own boundaries. There's probably a lot of resources online. You're also super smart. You have to go, where is there friction and tension in my life between my work and my business, or work and my life, my work and my business. That's what life is. No, between my work, my business, and my life, my relationships, my family, my health, my own sanity. Where is there friction? And what could I do proactively to alleviate that friction? That's the question. That's where you have to figure out where you need to set boundaries. So I would recommend come up with a few things. Do not do that laundry list of all the no's because you're not setting yourself up for success. But could you pick one or two things where you can put some boundaries, establish some trust within yourself that you can hold the line on those boundaries? That's what I would recommend. So that's the first part here, is make sure that you're clear around where there's friction in your life so that you can set some boundaries and be more proactive for that. So whether that's you stopping work at a certain time, for me, I stop work at 4:45 because I leave to go get my little one, Levi, baby Tank, as we call him, from daycare, from preschool. I grab him and then I'm done for the night. I don't start work until 9 o'clock in the morning because my mornings are quiet for the kids. I have some time for me. I get the kids ready. We do breakfast. I help my husband and everyone get out the door, and then my day starts. I don't typically take calls before 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. depending on the day. So I figured it out over time, and I'll tell you this, my boundaries, like my own rules for work and home, they change frequently. Like sometimes on the weekly, sometimes on the monthly, sometimes on the quarterly, but I'm always establishing how are things going and what needs to change. So view like your boundaries don't have to be so rigid and strict. The most important thing is the boundaries need to work for you so that you can maintain a quality of life, excitement, enthusiasm, relationships, all the things that you want, all the things you want to make sure that you're doing it in a way that works for you. So with that said, let's talk about how we communicate them, because this is, I think, where so many people go wrong. And in that horrible example I just gave you around how somebody's like, hey, I'm so excited to work with you. Here's all the times I don't work. That's not helpful. That is not helpful, right? So we got to think about this. Boundaries, yes, are for you. They are for you to protect your own mental, physical, relational well-being, all of those things. They're going to help you. You need to have them, because even though we think we're machines and we can keep it going all the time, we need to give ourselves rest and space. For the love of cheese, Moses, you need a hobby. Like, get a hobby. You need to do things for fun. I was just listening to Brene Brown, The Power of Vulnerability. It's an audio. Not a book, but I got it on Audible. But it's like an audio program with 6 episodes. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Everybody needs to listen to this. Like, it's so good. But there's this whole section around statistical research that shows that play is a huge piece of not being a serial killer. I know this is the weirdest show. I'm just going off all these tangents today, but they talk about how like having fun and being able to enjoy free time and just enjoying being silly. Like that's it's being like, that's the thing that was not present in all like serial killers that were studied and like crazy people who've done terrible things. That's not the point of today's episode, but I thought that was an interesting statistic. But she talks about the study, how fun and play and silly and hobbies is actually a huge part about being wholehearted and living a wholehearted life, which if you study Brené's work or listen to it in her books, she talks a lot about vulnerability and shame and all of it leading to being able to show up fully in your life, being wholehearted. This is like now my new mantra of how can Heather be more full-hearted in my life? Like, you're going to hear this a lot. I'm probably going to talk about this book for weeks. You're welcome in advance. So coming back to it, we know why boundaries are so important for you. It is instrumental. You need to have a little gut check with yourself to say, okay, so where do I need to slow down? Where's there friction? Where do I need to fill up my cup a little bit? As they say, because you need to avoid burnout. It's coming. The headaches, they happen every once in a while when you start feeling sick or your immune system's down or when you start getting resentful of the projects that you loved, but they're now bleeding over into some of that space you wanted. You start becoming resentful of your clients or community. Like we don't want that in our lives. So we need to be proactive. We need to be proactive of how we set it up. So that's what's really important. So we keep that in mind when we're bringing this into communicating with clients in our community. But what we also have to be mindful is there are benefits for having set boundaries to our clients and communities. And I think a lot of times we kind of skip over this. And I want to hit here today. I want you to sit here and I want you to write down, what are some of the benefits of me signing off every day at 4:45? How does that better serve my community? What are some of the benefits of me not starting my day or saying no to opportunities that are outside of these hours? What are some of the benefits of me saying no to more podcast interviews? Or what are some of the benefits of me saying no to that specific event? What are some of the benefits of me not communicating on email with my clients? Whatever your list was, right? Your boundary list, ask yourself, what are the benefits for my clients? So one of the big things, I'll give you some ideas here. You got to come up with your own. But what I know to be true is when I am constantly replying to emails and Slack messages and Facebook posts and all this stuff all the time, and I never turn off my brain, even though it feels like there is more output, it's like more connected. My cognitive function, oh, let's be fancy, it's lowered. There's some impairment there when if it's always on all the time, I can never be at my best. So if I want to create higher quality interactions with my community, if I want to be more thoughtful in my responses to my members inside of Speak Up to Level Up, if I want to give really quality coaching and feedback to my private clients, I have to make sure that I rest and create intention with how I show up. It means I need to be fully present in the moments where I show up and not like semi omnipresent all the time, because you and I both know when we're kind of keeping an eye on everything all the time, we're not really present. So quality is a huge benefit to our clients and our communities. It also sets them up, in my opinion, for better outcomes. When they get more full attention from you without interruptions, where you can wrap your brain around with a specific challenge and think about the context, the prior conversations, or what they might be feeling, when you can bring a little bit more compassion, your clients or your community, they're going to get better outcomes, right? If you can bring them better quality, they're going to have a better payoff from that interaction. So that is a win for them. And this last one is a big one. The third benefit that I see that's really powerful when you exhibit good boundaries with your clients is you demonstrate leadership. Because I think, I mean, at least everyone that I work with, so I'm an entrepreneur and I work with other entrepreneurs. So your scenario might be a little bit different, but hear me out. People are always looking to you, not just for your area of expertise, but how you lead your business and your life. People look at you as more than just your subject matter of expertise. They look at you as a mentor, and you are a leader to your community. So whether you have a team, whether you're on your own, but if you have an audience, even if it's just 3 people, people are looking to you as a leader. And I don't know if you see yourself in this way or not, but I hope you start seeing yourself as more of a leader in your industry, a leader to your community, a leader to your clients. And leadership requires we walk the talk and we demonstrate how to better show up. So when we don't have good boundaries, we send the message to our clients that they too need to be available all the time for their clients. And the burnout, stress trickle effect happens. And we're reinforcing that. But when we create strong boundaries, when we show up at high quality touch points with our clients and serve them in the best way possible, when we have the boldness to communicate or say no, but do it with compassion and empathy and respect, people admire that. And they get a little more ballsy and they decide, you know what, I need to do more of that within my community. I need to say no a little bit more too, so I can say yes to the things that matter. So leadership is super important with boundaries. And that's really what I want you thinking about today, is not only how you can set boundaries for yourself, which your brain called, it says, for the love of God, please help me, right? It needs a break. It needs a break. You need a break. Okay. You need those boundaries, but also your people need you to set the pace. Because right now in this world we're in, this world is crazy. There are so many things going on. Things are changing every week. Are the schools open? Are the schools closed? Are we online? Are we offline? Like all the crazy things, right? And it's not going to stop. This pandemic, it's going to stop, but there's going to be other things that come up. There's always going to be something. And there's always going to be excuse for why we're working all the time. At some point, you have to step up and say no. I have to do something differently, because this business I'm building, it is not building me. I am building me, and me is building it. You followed that, right? You got to build yourself up first. That's why we do so much of the internal work, why we focus so much on personal growth and how we approach things. We have to show up as the leader and then be able to lead our audience, because they're waiting for that person to be the domino to help them get the courage to do something. They've been thinking about it, just like, okay, today, talk about meta. Here I am preaching to you about this to inspire you to go do it. I am stepping up as a leader right now on a topic that makes me very uncomfortable, because I hate the idea of boundaries. I hate it when other people sound boundaries, because I want them to be available all the time, even though it's not true. That's not true. I want people to have lives. I'm very clear with my team around, like, take a freaking break. But I'm showing up because you need to do this. I need to do this. You need to do this. Is something that we have to embody. So I'm not telling you to be like a rigid robot around all of the boundaries. Do not build a fortress around you, but you need to make sure that you're clear where those lines need to fall. That was a tangent. So let's talk about this. You're gonna get some boundaries in place. And now let's talk about how you communicate them to your clients or to your community, because this, I think, is really important here. So let me give you a couple things here. A mistake: do not go at your clients. Do not come at them with here are all the ways that you can't contact me. No, that's not going to work. Do not come out with them with a no list. Please do not say, this is like a big asterisk. Please do not have this like laundry list of, my kids are at home with me, so I'm not available to take calls. Okay, I say this with the warmest heart, and knowing that my kids are home with me right now. And I know that a lot of times, especially on Thursdays when it's kid day, I'm not available to make calls. But if we lead with that, it's a no, right? So what I want you to do is, if you have a hard boundary, like a no, like for me, a hard boundary, I do not work on Thursdays. Hard boundary. Okay, soft boundary. I don't schedule anything on Thursdays, but sometimes I check my email when the kids are on nap, right? But it's optional, but nothing is scheduled. Nobody creeps into my schedule on Thursdays. Hard, soft boundary, hard, whatever. But it works for me. It totally works for me. So I want you to think about, instead of me going, I don't work on Thursdays. If I'm working with a client, we've been working together for a while and we've already established rapport, and they try to schedule a Thursday, I'll say it. Actually Thursdays aren't the best day for me. I do my client calls on Fridays and Wednesdays. That's it. Like, it's good. Nobody does that. So nobody questions that. It's like, oh, and if they push, they know my kids. Like, it's like, oh yeah, like Thursdays is my mom day. Really important for me to show up presently. So I'm like fully committed on these 2 days a week. That's where I bulk on my client meetings. But Thursdays is kind of my no-fly zone. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you have established some wins, some rapport with your clients, in order to be able to like say, oh, I don't work on this day. So what I want you to think about is give them the yeses before giving them nos. So set it up proactively. So let's say that you don't work Tuesdays and Thursdays and you're trying to schedule something with someone else, and you're going through the calendar and say, okay, so let's look at the week this week. I typically take my client calls on Mondays and Wednesdays. Which of those 2 days works best for you? It's called a yes question. You just gave them 2 options and either way is a yes. Of course, if they don't have that, if they're like, oh, I don't work Mondays and Wednesdays, I need to do other days. Okay, well, what's funny is they're now telling you that they have a boundary. So now you're like boundary buddies. You both have a boundary. Now let's figure out how we can figure out a win for the both of us. You see how that happens? So I typically go, okay, so I take client calls on this day and this day. Which of those 2 work for you? Let's scan the calendar here. Okay, and 2, how about the week of the 13th? Oh, then we can start slotting it in. So set your parameters and then pull them into it. Okay, so I do my client calls on Wednesdays and Fridays. I'm looking ahead the week of the 13th. I'm open on Wednesday at this or Friday at that. Which works best for you? Do that. Okay, that's how you're going to communicate your boundaries. You don't need to say, I don't work Thursdays. My clients don't need to know that until like at some point they'll probably know, or if they follow me on Instagram, they know. But like, you don't need to go through that list. You also don't need to go through that list and be like, I don't reply to emails after 5. You don't need to say that. You just need to demonstrate that. Don't respond. So here's the thing. I'm situated in my chair because here we go, baby. Chances are, if you hear me very clearly here, chances are if you have clients who send you emails at all hours, or are in your Facebook Messenger and in your Instagram Messenger and in your whatever messenger, all the things, if they're going through all the places and you're starting to feel resentful and frustrated and you're very like, why can't they just follow the thing? The chances are, leader, I'm talking to you, leader, be a leader, take responsibility for the actions that have led you to this point. Isn't it possible that they've messaged you on one of those things in the past and you've responded and not told them any different? Isn't it possible they've messaged you on other times and hours and you've responded after the kids went to bed and never said that it wasn't okay? Isn't it possible that these have happened in the past and you have now set the expectation that this is the kind of communication that you do? So the question is this their fault or yours? Probably both, right? Like it's, yes, they're doing the action, but you've set the expectation that that's okay. So if you find yourself in this position where somebody is, I see this all the time in Facebook groups. Oh, I have this really needy like student in my course that keeps sending me emails over and over and over again. And I just want to dump them from my program. Like they're not a fit. I see that and I'm like, what the hell? Like, does this student know they're doing anything wrong? No. Because have you ever told them that? No. So let's think here. I think a lot of times we get resentful and frustrated at other people for their actions, but we've never once told them that their actions are not okay or they're bothering us. I mean, I think about this with your spouse. I do. Here's the thing. I preach this. I do this in business all the time, but I am not great at this, right? I say this. I'm not perfect at this. I'm actually terrible at this with my husband. If he like, oh gosh, the coffee pot, right? So I set the coffee pot every single night, and every night, if I like, there's something going on, and I don't do the dishes after dinner, and I go take a shower or something, and he does the dishes, which I love, but then he doesn't set the coffee pot. Oh, every time I'm like, really? Every day I do it. Really? You can't just do it one time? But never in my life have I ever said, hey, babe, could you set the coffee pot tonight? No, if I would ask him that, he totally would do it. But instead, I'm like, oh, what is wrong? Like, why couldn't he just doesn't he just know to do the coffee pot every night? And I'm sure you can think of like a bajillion of these scenarios that run out in your personal life. And as silly as they sound, we know it to be true. But I think that's just a little game in marriage that you play. And I think we keep doing it because it keeps it exciting. But but in your business, what I want you thinking about is you're the one responsible to communicate with your community and with your clients. And sometimes that means that you need to have a hard for you conversation because you need to tell them something different, that you actually have a different expectation. And even though it's never been a different expectation for you, it's just the first time you're telling them that. So let me give you an example of how I would approach this. Oh my gosh, the person's emailing me too much. They're really infringing. Like this program came with Facebook support. Why are they emailing me, or why are they messaging me, or why are they DMing? Cool. So if I get a student request, so from my program, Speak Up to Level Up, it's a community we have there. People have access to the live community, live coaching, and other bonuses for 12 months as they go through the core curriculum of the program. If I get an individualized DM or message from one of my students, here's how I handle it. This actually happened recently. Somebody reached out and they're like, hey, this isn't necessarily related exactly to Speak Up to Level Up, but I'm really curious around what platforms you're using to host the program. Like, I think it's really stellar and I love it. Like, I want to design my program similar to this. First of all, thank you. I am super proud of my platforms and how we've designed the program. Like, it is stellar. It is world-class. I love the program so much. Okay, done fangirling on myself. Here's what we go. It would be easy for me to be like, how dare they reach out? I'm going to send them like a strongly worded email of go ask the question in the community. No, it's just like you got to train people to think differently. So what I always say is when this happens, the first time it comes through, you answer and move. So here's what I do. Hey, Susie, first of all, thank you so much. I've like poured my heart inside of Speak Up to Level Up, and I love the program, and I'm so happy to hear that you love it too. That really means the world for me. Look at that. Yes, love it. Honoring that. I fully believe that that's true. I love that you asked this question. What do I say? Like, I'm thinking real time as I'm doing this here. You guys are seeing like my real Sager brain think on your feet thing. So I really, really love this question. I'm really glad that you asked this question because I'm actually sure other people have the same one too. I use the Kajabi platform, and what I love about it is insert something here. And then what I'll do is I will ask for a favor. Right. But what I'm really doing is normalizing expectations. So, hey, even though this question seems kind of like outlandish and outside the scope of Sulu, these are probably questions that your peers are having. So, hey, could you do me a quick favor? Could you post this question to the group so I can answer it again? Because I want to make sure that if other people have this question too, that they can see it, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions. I hear platform questions all the time, and actually other people might have some input to add as well. So great to hear from you. I can't wait to see you on the next set of office hours. That's what I would say, something along the lines of that. And I send versions of those on a weekly basis to my students around like, oh my gosh, I love that you asked this question. And here's what I've learned to hear it as. Typically, people are sending me messages because they're asking me something that they feel is on the perimeter of the program, and they don't know if it's okay to ask in the community, which tells me I need to embrace all conversations in the community. So I always do that. I always ask, oh my gosh, I love that you asked this. Thank you so much. Now, if it's a question that requires a more in-depth response, not like I use Kajabi on that last one. If it's more response, I will say, oh, I love this question. Yes, I so want to dive this into you. Hey, could you post this inside the community? And I will jump in there tomorrow afternoon and answer this. And by the way, like in the meantime, you actually might get some responses from other people, but I really think this is a topic that other people would benefit from. Can you throw it in there, and I'll be sure to jump in tomorrow? Easy. I said yes, but I directed them differently. So, hey, Heather, can you tell me like, let's pretend there's a question here. Hey, Heather, can you tell me how I like how I adapt this part of my signature talk to a podcast interview I have next week. Right? It's a personalized question. I don't do personalized support inside my program, but I do hot seats and real-time coaching. And then we have this whole community where people ask questions all the time and they all answer it. So by saying, yeah, oh, I love to ask this, like such a good question. And by the way, like awesome on that podcast interview coming up. Hey, could you go drop this question into the private members only Facebook group and I'll jump in there tomorrow and answer it. Like I'm saying the same thing that I just said. I want you to hear this language. I am saying yes. And I am redirecting them. And it feels good. It's a feel good moment, right? But underlining, I'm saying, no, I don't do one-on-one coaching and emails. No, I can't, like a part of me wants to help you right now, but I've already said yes to other things in my life that need my attention in this moment. So this is where communicating your boundaries. Notice what I'm doing here. I am communicating the benefit to them by talking about the benefit to you have a great question. I want to answer this for you. And I really think others in the community would love this. That's my go-to approach. Any of my members or my clients that listen to this podcast are like, oh, that's what she was doing. Yeah, you should steal it and use it in your community too. So I think you can honor people. I think you can really show them a lot of love and respect and compassion and enthusiasm when they reach out to you one-on-one. I'm honored by that. And I respect my commitment that it is a group program. So I want you to just think about how you're phrasing things as you can be compassionate, respectful. Check yourself. If you're getting a request coming in and you're like, oh, how dare they? Or can you believe they asked me to do this? I can. It happens all the time. And like, cool it, chill, sister. Like, chill. Nobody's trying to like scheme up. Like, how can I make you so mad today? No, they're simply asking a question. And it's up to you to go, how can I answer this with love and respect for my boundaries, but also serve the crap out of my audience? Most likely when people encroach upon that, you have a reply. So let me give you one last example here before we wrap up. Another example would be someone who is, okay, let's let's fast forward this real quick. Somebody who's requesting an interview with you or a call with you or a schedule, whatever with you outside of your normal hours. So this actually happened to me last week. Somebody's trying to schedule, we're trying to coordinate a podcast interview and he's in a far different time zone and his only spots were open at 4 p.m. Pacific. So my virtual assistant and I sat down, we were trying to figure out where in the calendar. And I finally said, as I'm trying to like move things around, side note, y'all know I have kids. I've talked about this multiple times. I end a workday at 4:45 to go get one of those kids. But the other one, he's here 2 days a week at home Zoom kindergarten. The other 2 days a week, he's in school, but he's off at 1:30. So I have to be really mindful of my afternoons because I really want to be present with my children. And so I spend some afternoons with him. So I don't like doing interviews outside of when he's actually physically at school. So I made this decision a few weeks ago that I'm no longer doing interviews in the afternoons. It just is not a good flow for me. I follow through on the commitments I've already made, but I'm not taking new ones. So coming back to it, my VA is like, oh, they only do 4. Well, it was a Calendly link. So it was like a book a call link. So I told her, I was like, why don't you reach out and just say, hey, we're super excited about this. Unfortunately, Heather doesn't do interviews or she does interviews. No, what did I say? I was like, tell them we're super excited about this. Heather does interviews on her calendar between 10 and whatever the time was, like between 10 and 1 on these 2 days a week, based off their calendar with only 4 p.m. time spots. It doesn't look like it's going to match up. Do they have any other spots available or should we table this for down the road? So I put the ball in their court. Instead of saying, no, I'm unwilling, we gave a window of when I do interviews. I think I even gave the reason of right now with Zoom kindergarten and some flexibility things, I have to be really stringent on my schedule. Although I didn't need to give them that reasoning. I did because I know the person. But I'm saying yes by leaving the ball in their court, right? I'm giving them an out that if they don't want to flex on their boundaries, if that was even a boundary or that was just a Calendly link, I gave them the opportunity for them to go with mine, but mine was a hard no. I don't do interviews at that time right now. So that's an example. Let me give you one more example. And this one is a client that is emailing you at all hours of the night. This one's simple. Don't email back. Don't email back. If you say I'm done with email at 5 o'clock and a client emails you at 7, don't email back. Just don't do it. It's just that simple. If you have clients that expect a response from you at night, that's a problem, right? But I think that you might have, side note, because I had that too, this made up delusional thing that the faster you respond, the higher quality or the higher whatever that you have. I don't think other people think that. So what you need to do is really evaluate if you think other people expect you to reply at those hours, check yourself and say, is that true? Or is that a delusional reality that we tell ourselves because we've been living in the hustle world for so long? It's probably that, right? So one, just don't email it. Set some boundaries of when you do email. If needed, I've played around with this, remove email from your phone. Email at your desk, schedule the times of when you do your email. But if you have a client who's then going like, why did it take so long for you to get back to me? And they emailed you at 7 p.m. and now they're emailing you at 9 a.m. Like that's on them. So if you, let's pretend that's your scenario. One, you need to set some expectations with them. And what you do is not like, hello, crazy person. Why are you emailing all night? Like it's only been 11 hours and it was sleeping hours. That's not helpful, right? So what you want to do is say, hey, Stan, let's pretend this person's name is Stan. I don't know why. Susie and Stan, those are the two characters in today's story. So, hey, Stan, I really, thanks for sending your email. I apologize. No, don't apologize for being late. So, hey, Stan, thanks so much for your email. Hey, I want to make sure that I best serve you when I'm working on your projects. And or I say, like, I want to make sure that each of my clients gets the absolute best. So so what I do is like, I'm like, this is me fumbling out loud, right? Because these things are kind of hard. So you got to think through it real quick. So you want to say something like, hey, Stan, I want to make sure, well, I want to sync up on communication because it seems like you were maybe frustrated that I didn't get back to you last night on that one thing. So I want to make sure I set you up for success, right? I want to make sure that I keep you abreast of the projects, that you feel confident in what we're doing, and give you a space to give feedback that works for you, but it also works for me too, so that I can best manage your project. So what I'd love to do is, it sounds like last night's question was kind of more of a status type email. Would it be helpful for you if I send out a weekly status report so you can see what's going on? And then let's do a touch base call Tuesdays, just to make sure if you have any questions or loose ends that we do up. Like, so set up what are some things that you can set up proactively to avoid those? That's the first place that I go. And then what I do is then if they start abusing the email again, I will just redirect when I get the next one. Hey, Stan, this would be a really great thing for us to touch on I'll add this to the list for our Tuesday touch base call. If I got another email, hey, Stan, could you hold that for our Tuesday touch base call? Like you have to lay out the proactive stuff, get some buy-in that they feel like that's a good idea too. And then any of those like weird spiry connections or like emails they send, connect them back to awesome. Not like save it for the touch base call. Don't be snarky, but just be like, oh, awesome. Perfect. I'll add that to the list for the Tuesday touch base call. And if you do that, if you keep doing that over and over again, they're going to get the gist that, oh, I should ask these things in the Tuesday touch base call. So that gives you some examples of both in our world, maybe if you're in corporate, that last one really might fit for you. But what you have to think about, this all comes back to being proactive to create a better balance for you, keeping your own sanity, holding off the resentment, holding off the begrudgingly tasks, and setting your clients up for success around how can they have the best experience working with you? How can this could become a win for them? How do you communicate the wins and then the actions they need to take to get those wins, i.e. post in the Facebook group or i.e. send you an email on Monday? Like you have to think about how you can have them participate, but it starts with you being clear and then being clear with them. So I hope this episode today motivated you, inspired you a bit to step into becoming a stronger leader, starting to see yourself more as a leader, and then use how you communicate in a way that influences other people for good. I think boundaries are super important. I think we all need to be clear on what ours are. But more importantly, I think we're going to have higher quality relationships and establish really strong trust with our clients and communities when we, one, communicate those boundaries, and two, reinforce them in a proactive and positive way. So I can't wait to see how you use this episode. Be sure to connect with me on Instagram and take a screenshot of this episode and share it. Share from the rooftops. If you jive with this definition and this action plan for boundaries, help us get the word out for this show. We are approaching 40,000 downloads here real soon, and it would mean the world for me if you shared it with 3 friends today. And be sure, if you have not yet liked and subscribed to the show, please, please do. The rate or the reviews that you leave, it means the world, and people actually read those. And that's how more people find the show and actually hit the subscribe button. So y'all are amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I can't wait to see you in the next episode. Bye, friends.